When you are dealing with a narcissist, the absolute most important thing to grasp is that they are not interacting with you in the normal way that most people do. You naturally operate on the fundamental belief that relationships should be built on mutual respect, a fair give and take, and a shared understanding of one another. You bring this positive perspective into your life because that is what makes deep, meaningful human connections possible for everyone else. However, the narcissist views everything through an entirely different lens. Their whole approach is not about collaboration or building a partnership. Instead, it is centered entirely on dominance. A narcissist's primary goal in any kind of interaction is to secure power, gain admiration, force belief, and affirm themselves strictly on their own terms. If that means distorting the truth, they will do it without a second thought. If it means gaslighting you so effectively that you begin to doubt your own clear perception of reality, they will do that without any hesitation. If it means slowly breaking down your self-assurance just to make you more agreeable and easier to control, that is exactly what they will focus on, and they will feel no guilt or remorse whatsoever. This is precisely why they can be so incredibly harmful to your well-being. Many people make the mistake of believing that if they just offer enough kindness, remain extremely patient, or take the time to explain their feelings with total clarity, the narcissist will eventually see reason and change. This is nothing more than a total fantasy. A narcissist simply does not learn through logic, through calm and civil discussion, or through making moral appeals. They only respond to consequences. If you ignore this harsh reality, you are essentially setting yourself up for unending frustration, deep-seated self-doubt, and a level of emotional burnout that can be very difficult to recover from. So, how do you actually put this awareness of their methods into practice? First, you have to start paying close attention to their patterns of action rather than just listening to their words. Narcissists are absolute experts at saying exactly what you want to hear. They will promise they are going to change. They will pretend to feel genuine regret. They will even take on the role of the victim just to keep you tied to their ongoing drama. But the vital question you must ask yourself is what their actions consistently reveal about them. If there is an established, recurring pattern of lying, manipulating, or showing disrespect, then that pattern is the absolute truth of your situation, regardless of whatever verbal promises they might be making to you. Second, you must recognize that narcissists rely on very specific psychological tactics to maintain their grip on you. One of the most subtle and damaging of these tactics is gaslighting, which is intentionally designed to make you lose complete trust in your own perception of reality. They will firmly deny that they ever said things, even when you have clear, undeniable proof. They will quietly rewrite history, adjusting the narrative of the past until you find yourself apologizing for things that were never your fault in the first place. The more energy you invest in these endless arguments, the more control they gain over you. The very act of constantly defending your position puts you in a subservient role. You are reacting to their agenda, which means they are the ones setting the rules for the entire discussion. Another very frequent strategy they use is intermittent reinforcement. This involves mixing moments of genuine affection with periods of cruelty in completely unpredictable cycles. This tactic is incredibly powerful because it functions exactly like the mechanism of addiction. If someone was always unkind to you, you would eventually find the strength to pull away and leave the situation. But because they occasionally offer brief, fleeting moments of warmth, your mind becomes obsessed with that reward. You find yourself desperately hoping that if you just behave in the right way, you will get more of the good treatment and less of the bad. This creates a deeply harmful reliance where you stay, not because the relationship is actually nourishing or healthy, but because you are constantly chasing those brief, temporary flashes of warmth. In reality, those moments of kindness were just another tool they used for control. Then there is the issue of projection. The narcissist will constantly accuse you of the exact same character flaws that they possess themselves. If they are being dishonest, they will call you a liar. If they are the ones being emotionally volatile, they will claim that you are the person who is being irrational. This strategy serves two distinct purposes. It distracts you completely from their own behavior, and it keeps you so focused on defending your own character that you cannot take a step back to see what is really going on. Understanding these methods is not about becoming cynical or distrustful of everyone you meet. It is about gaining much-needed clarity. It is about shedding those illusions and finally seeing the facts exactly as they are. Because once you see the game for what it actually is, you stop being a player in their scheme. And when you stop playing along, the narcissist completely loses their power over you. So, if you really want to stop being controlled, manipulated, and emotionally depleted, the first step is simply to see the narcissist for who they really are, rather than who you keep wishing they could be. The truth, even when it is difficult to face, is always far more useful than a comforting lie. One of the most devastating traps you can fall into when dealing with a narcissist is the constant pursuit of their approval. I do not just mean overtly trying to impress them. I mean the subtle, almost automatic ways you change your behavior just to dodge their criticism, to earn even a tiny bit of their acknowledgement, or to finally, just once, be treated with the respect you deserve. This trap is easy to fall into because we are all fundamentally programmed to seek out social connection. When we put effort into a personal relationship, our career, or our family, we expect at a basic level that our contributions will be recognized and valued. We tend to believe that if we just explain ourselves well, if we show our loyalty, our good intentions, and our patience, the narcissist will eventually acknowledge that and decide to change their behavior. But that moment simply never arrives. This is because narcissists do not operate on a principle of give and take. They see your efforts not as a reason to respect you, but as proof that they have successfully managed to control you. Every time you bend yourself out of shape to avoid their disapproval, you are confirming their power over you. Every time you wait for their validation, you are handing over the reins of your own self-worth to them. If you think there is some magical combination of words or actions that will finally make them see your true value, you are wasting your precious time and energy. For them, the goalposts are always shifting. The moment you think you have finally done enough, they will just introduce a brand new standard that you were never actually intended to meet. The key realization you have to internalize is that it is not about you. Their inability to treat you with respect is not a judgment of your worth as a human being. It is a direct result of their own deep-seated psychological issues. The narcissist has a self-image that is extremely fragile, built entirely on a shaky belief of superiority that must be constantly supported by validation from the outside world. They cannot allow themselves to be wrong because admitting a single fault would completely shatter the illusion they have built. They cannot allow other people to be genuinely seen or valued because that would mean giving up their sense of control. So they go through life extracting, manipulating, and minimizing others because it is the only way they know how to maintain their overblown sense of self. Once you truly internalize this reality, the right path forward becomes clear. You must detach yourself emotionally, mentally, and where it is possible, physically. This process starts with one crucial action. You must stop seeking their approval in any form whatsoever. This does not mean you have to be rude to them or start retaliating with meanness. It simply means removing yourself entirely from the psychological drama they are trying to ensnare you in. How does this look in your everyday life? It means you stop justifying yourself to them. A narcissist absolutely loves an argument because an argument confirms that their opinion holds weight in your life. The moment you begin to defend your actions, you have already lost the exchange. The conversation is now centered around their biased view of you rather than your own inherent reality. Stop trying to explain yourself to someone who is only listening in order to collect ammunition to use against you later. If they choose to twist your words, let them twist them. If they choose to misrepresent your intentions, so be it. Their view of you is not a problem that you need to solve. It also means letting go of the need for them to give you closure. This is incredibly tough for most people. We all naturally crave a final resolution in our relationships. We want that moment where the narcissist finally admits their wrongdoing, offers a sincere apology, and gives us the sense of fairness we have been waiting for. But that moment is not going to come. The longer you pursue it, the longer you stay trapped in their orbit. The only closure you will ever get is the closure you give to yourself. It comes from the decision to walk away, to stop engaging, and to accept that their acknowledgement is not required for your self-worth to be whole and complete. And perhaps most significantly, it means redefining your source of validation. If you have spent years or even decades adapting your sense of self to meet the expectations of a person who is fundamentally incapable of valuing you, it is time to take that power back. Your worth is not a fragile thing that depends on another person's recognition. It is something you must claim for yourself. The instant you do this, the narcissist loses the very thing that made them powerful over you in the first place. You are reclaiming your own reality, your own peace, and your own future. The most profound act of rebellion you can perform against a narcissist is simply to stop feeling like you need them to see you, and to start truly seeing yourself instead. One of the most dangerous miscalculations you can make when dealing with someone who has narcissistic traits is believing that playing by the usual polite rules of society will keep you safe or lead to a fair outcome. You might find yourself thinking that if you are just fair, logical, and keep giving them the benefit of the doubt, they will eventually see your efforts and reciprocate that kindness. But this assumption is based on a completely false premise. It assumes that the narcissist actually values fairness, that they respond to logic, or that they are even participating in the same game as you are. The truth is, they are not. A narcissist operates from an entirely different psychological framework than you do. Most people enter a disagreement with a friend, a difficult conversation with a partner, or a conflict in the workplace with the assumption that there is a shared objective reality. They believe that if both sides just honestly present their views, the truth will surface, and some form of mutual agreement can be found. But a narcissist has absolutely no interest in reaching an agreement. Their only real interest is in winning the interaction. This is exactly where you must stop making the mistake of believing that being the nobler person, being endlessly patient, or being forever understanding will lead to some kind of breakthrough. It absolutely will not happen. Because to a narcissist, your eagerness to engage, your constant effort to keep explaining, your drive to keep justifying your actions, and your persistent hope for a rational answer is never seen as an inner strength. Instead, it is seen as a weakness. It is an opening that confirms to them that they still have a firm, iron-like hold on your mind, your emotions, and your choices. It tells them that you are still playing their game, even if you do not realize you are doing it. So, what should you do instead? You must stop reacting in the exact way that they expect you to react. You must stop giving them the emotional energy that they so desperately feed on. Because here's a crucial point that you really need to remember. Narcissists are not self-sufficient. They do not generate their own inner stability, their own authentic sense of identity, or their own genuine feeling of self-worth. They extract it entirely from the people around them. This is why they constantly provoke, manipulate, and manufacture conflict where no real conflict should exist. It is all just a desperate attempt to keep you fully engaged with them because to a narcissist, engagement equals power. If you want to neutralize a narcissist, you have to strip away that power. And that process begins with mastering something that is both simple to understand and incredibly difficult to do. That thing is emotional detachment. I do not mean that you should totally suppress your feelings because doing that is deeply unhealthy for you. What I mean is developing the practical, everyday skill to remain completely unaffected by their deliberate provocations. It means recognizing that their attempts to guilt bait you or to pull you into yet another cycle of endless argument and self-defense are nothing more than a desperate strategy to keep you under their influence. This is where the concept of gray rocking becomes so vital. It is a psychological technique where you intentionally make yourself as uninteresting, as unemotional, and as disengaged as humanly possible when you have to deal with a narcissist. They thrive on dramatic reactions. Whether that reaction is anger, frustration, profound sadness, or even moments of forced affection, reactions mean that they are still in control of your emotional state. But if you refuse to take the bait, if you stop giving them the dramatic emotional display they crave, they instantly lose their leverage over you. They get bored with the lack of reaction, and they eventually move on. But let us be completely honest with ourselves, because this is not easy to do. It is not easy to sit in the presence of someone who is deliberately trying to provoke you and to make the choice to refuse to react. It is not easy to hear ridiculous, unfair accusations being thrown at you and to make the conscious, disciplined choice not to defend yourself. It is not easy to watch them twist reality, rewrite history to suit their narrative, and smear your good name, all while you simply sit back and tell them to believe whatever they want to believe. But doing this is absolutely necessary for your own sanity. Every time you engage with them, every time you fight back, and every time you try to validate yourself to someone who has no real interest in the truth, you are actively fueling the very dynamic that is exhausting you. This approach requires a form of powerful, internal, psychological self-discipline. It is the ability to look at the situation and say to yourself that you do not require this person's validation to be okay. You do not need to correct their false story. You do not need to win their approval or prove your worth in their eyes. When you achieve that specific high level of detachment, you become virtually untouchable. A narcissist simply cannot control what they cannot provoke. Ultimately, the most powerful response to a narcissist is not explosive fury or even a direct angry confrontation. It is pure, unwavering indifference. When they finally realize they can no longer pull you into their chaotic, distorted world, they lose all interest in you as a target. And that exact moment is when you finally reclaim your freedom. One of the greatest hazards you face when interacting with a narcissist is getting stuck in the unending, circular cycle of conflict that they generate every single day. You may mistakenly think that if you can just make them see your side of things, if you can finally prove your point beyond any doubt, or if you can get them to acknowledge their poor conduct, then everything will finally be resolved for the better. But this belief is a total mirage. A narcissist does not argue to find a constructive solution to a problem. They argue to dominate you. Their real goal is not to uncover the truth, to reach a shared understanding, or even to coherently prove their own stance on a topic. Their true goal is simply to keep you involved, to keep you emotionally invested, and to keep you constantly reacting to them. As long as you are reacting, you are still playing in their game. And as long as you are playing in their game, they maintain their total crushing hold over you. Consider how this scenario typically plays out in your real life. You might bring up a completely legitimate issue about something they did that was insulting, deceitful, or deeply hurtful to you. A normal person, even if they strongly disagreed with your perspective, would at least try to listen and understand where you are coming from. They would engage with you honestly. But what does the narcissist do in that exact moment? They deflect immediately. They shift the blame back onto you. They bring up an entirely irrelevant mistake that you committed months or even years ago. They twist your words into something you never actually said. They accuse you of being the one who has the real problem. Before you even realize what has happened, you are no longer discussing their original hurtful action. Instead, you are aggressively defending your own character. And that is precisely where they win. The moment you start defending yourself, the entire focus of the conversation is no longer about their bad behavior. It is now completely about you trying to prove your innocence. They have successfully flipped the entire situation upside down. Now you are effectively on trial, spending all of your mental and emotional energy attempting to justify yourself, while they calmly observe you as you drain yourself in a psychological battle that was never designed to be fair in the first place. So how do you actually put a stop to this exhausting, repetitive cycle? How do you remove yourself entirely from this toxic psychological battleground? You learn to disengage completely. You stop defending yourself to them. You stop explaining your motives. You stop trying to win a debate that was rigged against you from the very first word. Now, doing this does not mean that you simply let them treat you badly or walk all over you. It does not mean you tolerate ongoing abuse or stay silent in the face of deep injustice. What it actually means is that you flatly refuse to take part in a rigged game that offers you no possibility of a fair outcome. It means you establish firm, ironclad boundaries that are completely non-negotiable. A narcissist thrives on emotional turmoil and will use every single ounce of their energy to keep you off balance. But the moment you stop providing that fuel, the entire foundation of their control begins to crumble. By choosing not to play, you are reclaiming your power and your life.